In our last Revenges video, we talked about how moderate, you don't need him anymore. But now we can very well solidly support this fact with a superior cross, right? Hey, what's on, guys? I'm Izul here. Today we are back for V-Call, and we have to start it off with a bang, which is of course one of the most requested decks that everyone just wants to see. It is Raging Fall Dragon. As you probably already know, I cannot afford Shadow Paladins, so today we have Fade of Off.
Hello.
So the thing about Raging Fall is he was definitely the most confusing because it's a brand new unit because Bushiroad is now trying to hop onto the what if train, and so they were like, what if after Ren was lying down on the floor he had a deck, and this is the deck. Of course, the only thing is that a lot of people are very confused as to what Raging Fall is and what it does, because the skill reveal and what it actually does is really misleading. A lot of people don't see the synergy, a lot of people don't see how it works, and a lot of people are just like, just stick to Raging Fall. And for the most part, you would be right. This Raging Fall really does leave a lot to be desired in some aspects. But Raging Fall actually has quite a large number of uses that will make you rethink actually how you play your Revenger decks, especially if you're leaning towards a deck that doesn't go around spamming Moderate Phantom with Blaster Dart, but you would still like the Revenger Edge as well as your Violin Solo. So today, this is what we're going to be covering. As I just mentioned, there is no moderate shenanigans here, so there will not be any Blaster Darts as well. So anything you see here, this is a pure Revenger deck, and we will go through our choices and then we'll just break it down. If there's anything you're not happy about with this deck, because I'm very sure people will not be happy with Raging Fall in the first place, just try it yourself, test it out, see what works for you. I think that's going to be best.
Yeah, I mean, I also that there will be quite a lot of differences between this version of the deck and the deck that we showed off last September. So we will try to explain why we made all the different changes as we go along.
All right.
Yes.
We start off with the Great Trees. We obviously play 4 copies of Revenger, Raging Fall Dragon Reverse, and 4 copies of Revenger, Raging Form Dragon. So we'll start off with the one you already know, which is Raging Form Dragon.
So Raging Form Dragon's his skills are basically the same as they were last September. So is on place. If you have 4 or more damage, you can count +1. You search your deck for any Revenger, and you can call it to a rearguard circle. So it's I break right on top of Moderate Phantom. Except now you don't even need to play Moderate Phantom, so it's pretty good. And it's a +1 when you have 4 damage. And if you're going to play Raging Form the way that we play in this deck, you are always probably going to be at 4 damage when you start this whole combo off. But mainly because the second skill is what we all know him for, is that at the end of the battle he attacks, you retire 3 Revenger rearguards and you write a Grade 3 Revenger from your hand as stand. It does not lose any drive checks, it does not gain any power, it does give you a marker though, so doing Raging Form on top of Raging Form, of course you can do the skill again. And if you thought about it, once again, because if you write a Raging Form on top of Raging Form and you did not heal out of Limit Break, you can counter +1, call another Revenger, and then you can do the whole thing all over again, because you need 3 Revengers. If you have a full board at the start of it, you retire 3, you write Raging Form again, you call another Revenger, you are now at 3 Revenger rearguards once again. So, that is the way that Raging Form was, that's the premise that they sold to us last September. But now, instead of only being able to write himself or the one and only Moderate Phantom, so now Blaster Dart shenanigans, now we have a new right target to go into, which is, of course, the one and only Revenger Raging Fall Reverse. So
now the thing is that a lot of people will be wondering, come on, why would I do that? Why would I actively go from Raging Form instead of Form and Superior Cross right into Raging Fall? It just wouldn't make sense. So let's actually go through the skill of Raging Form and discuss this card in detail. Because once we actually understand what this thing actually does, you're going to notice that the rest of the list comes very naturally. It won't even be a matter of explaining, it's just going to be a matter of, alright, so and so. So let's actually break it down. Revenger Raging Fall Dragon, drawn by the great Daisuke Inuzuka once again.
Izuka
once again. He
yes.
has 2 skills. First skill is lock one of your Revengers. You choose 3 of your Revengers and you gain 5,000 power. This skill is not once per turn, so you can spam this to hell. You can just lock 2, lock 3, as many as you want, and just give your front row a lot of power. I'm saying your front row because it's 3 units, right? And that nicely fits in with Raging Fall. So Raging Fall actually even on the early game, as long as you're on fall, you can actually push for quite a bit of heavy numbers for barely any cost. And it's not like Revengers are very hard to find. Revengers are everywhere in this deck. It's so easy to plus and get them to the point that it's barely any cost. If you lock one to choose 3 wins in game 5, I say it's essentially free. But the second skill is also interesting to note, which is at the end of the bell, this unit attacks. This cost can be reduced by 1 for each lock card you have. Counterblast 3, discard 3 cards, choose up to 2 of your standing
Red guards. No, it doesn't have to be Revenger.
Choose up to 2 of your standing rear guards and lock them. If you have
2
2 or more lock cards on the field,
or you are at 5,
if you're at 5 damage, you stand.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to take in for the second skill because there's really so many phrases, which is probably why a lot of people think it's really bad, because a simple misreading or mistranslation of the skill would instantly just send you straight to hell. But what does this actually do? It checks off for the first skill like Luat. This cost is reduced by 1 for every one of your locked cards. So similarly, you can actually decrease this cost from 3 all the way to 0 by having 3 locked rearguards. So that is why I was suggesting you can lock your back row to pump your front row, because that's exactly what you could do. But let's say you did not use Raging Fall on your main phase. Let's say you started off as Form, who went into Fall. What do you do then? So if you use the Shadows to turn into the Void, you clearly won't be able to lock during the main phase, so they built in a little security cache for you. You can choose 2 of your standing rearguards and lock them. Now, they don't have to be in the front row.
And they also don't have to
be Revengers either. So if you start off as Form and go into Fall, and you didn't get your little back row setup, Fall will force you to minus to give you that setup, which is still fine because it nicely weaves in to the whole deck. But there is another layer to this skill. If you have 2 or more lock cards, or if you are at 5 damage, this unit gets to stand. Now, there is no drive reduction at all, right? There's no drive reduction. And to make it even better, if you're at 5 damage, you break off your own locks. You don't even have to lock. You just straight up just stand. So at Ultimate Break, this thing is essentially free. Combined with Form into Fall, you're going to get 3 huge center swinging VG attacks, which turn your late game into absolute devastation. But let's say you are not at 5 damage. Even if you're at 4 damage, if you're going from Form into Fall, you can just choose 2 of your back row, lock it, and swing again. So no matter how you view Fall, from riding this as your first grade 3 to riding this on 4 damage as a superior ride, or riding this at 5 damage on a superior ride, you know, this Fall is actually better than most people turn it out to be. Because like I said, there's just so much to the text that it's so easy to write it off as bad. And another reason why people can write it off as bad is for a very valid reason, and that's because Shadow has just so many more better bosses. You have stuff like, you know, Claret with the PR, you have stuff like, you can play Luat, for example, you know, the bro winning deck. Why not? But that is why a lot of people will be very fast to throw Raging under the bus, and for very good reason. But if you really sit down to break down this very small yet very long string of text, you'll notice that this card actually is very well designed, in the sense that it's not horrible, but it's not overpowered. And to me, I think that's more than enough for a Revenger deck to operate, especially when you see the rest of the deck. So now that I've really gone through in depth on this little skill text, the rest of the deck is gonna be extremely natural, and we can finish this in record time.
And I mean, for the record, Raging Form, even in its infancy as, like, you know, after the Break Right era and after Shadow Paladin finally got its G era support, it was actually never really the meta defining part of Shadow Paladin. It was just a fun deck that you could play just to troll your friends, or, you know, you can just like have fun in Raging Rat Dragon and strike over and over and over again. Then you can strike 4 times a turn, then you go into GB8 or whatever random stuff you want to do. So it's not like Luat, where it's like you have like a set path to victory, and like you have calculated like 99 different scenarios, and like every single piece of your deck is a new piece to ensure your victory. You know, Curse Eye Raven over and over again, or, you know, Claret Sword with your Helheim Guard Pressure. No, Raging Form is just, you want to have fun. You want to tell your opponent that I'm not planning to win, I'm just here to make your life miserable and make sure that I have the most fun possible. So it's not, so you don't really have to write off Raging Form as, oh, it's not as good as, you know, Drag Driver, or it's not as good as Cleric with the PR. It's not even as good as PBO, but you know, it's just good fun to have, and you know, it's just, and you can definitely have a lot of very great shenanigans with it, especially with the combos that you can see that the rest of the deck will be facilitate very, very, very well.
Moving on to our grade 2s, and we'll do this fast. Actually,
Yes.
the rest of the deck.
Yeah, the rest of the deck is
fast.
quite fast.
It's,
Honestly,
it's
because-
really just fall, so I'll just
Yeah.
put fall here so
Yeah,
we
just put fall.
remember this guy.
Yes. No, we'll definitely be bringing him back as the video
Our
goes
4
on.
grade 2s, not 4 grade 2s. We play more than 4 grade 2s. We play Matcha at 4. We play, this is Dorint
Front
at
line.
3. And this guy is
This is the Rakia, if I'm not wrong.
Rakia. This is
Yes.
Rakia. Okay, so let's break it down real quick. We'll touch off with the one that's obviously returning. It's Matcha.
No, the Dark Cloak Revenger Tatu.
Oh, it's Tatu. Okay. Tatu skill is very simple. When placed anywhere,
On Rengar
From
Circle,
the
Rengar
hand,
Circle from hand, you Soul Blast 1.
You search your deck for grade 1 or lower Revenger, Superior call it to the same column, and at the end of the turn, it must die.
Yes.
So it's just a really simple +1. I mean, you don't get power, but it's just a free +1. It's a Revenger. You call a Revenger. Nothing complaint. Soul is not a resource that you guys use heavily, so it's fine. Good card still.
Yeah, then we have Dorin, so Blaster Dark's Revenger's favorite companion, but we don't play Blaster Dark anymore in this deck, so, but
I mean, it doesn't really work with Blaster Dark anymore.
yeah, because his skill is, you when place, counter blast 1, so blast 1, and she gains 10k until the end of turn. But if you have a Frontline Revenger Claudius, which is the grade 1 in this version, or the grade 0 starter from the Breakwright era, you get to draw a card. So you know it's a it's a 1-for-1 cycle, and then he also gains 10k. So you know it's not bad, but you know we really are just using him for the name Revenger as a whole.
He is quite costly for the skill. If you pull off the entire skill, I'd say it's pretty worth.
Yeah.
But it's really more of a, if you need to use it, use it. If not, you just don't use it.
Yeah.
Especially given the current support we have, which is just pretty good.
Yeah, and now for the new guy, which is Rakia.
Rakia.
So Rakia's skill, he has 2 skills. So first skill is that when your grade 3 Revenger rides on top of him, you may look at the top 3 cards of your deck, and you can choose 1 Revenger from among them and add them into your hand, and you put the rest into the bottom. So you know we actually have seen this type of skill pop up like many times over the course of this special V call support wave that we've been getting for the past few years. So you know, check top.
Past few years?
Okay.
It's been 1
Yeah, it's
year.
only been 1 year. Oh my god, it felt so long. Like, It's been
Yeah.
so many. It felt like V sets have been coming out for like so long already. Okay, so I mean, we first saw this, of course, with Aqua Force, you know, the Corvette. Now you got like tens and thousands of different clones of Corvette. You know, we even have a Corvette clone in this deck as Corvette clone with Renard. You know, we have the new Beast Deity, which checks top 3, adds 1 to hand, put the rest to bottom. You know, you've seen this skill many times already, and it's just a free +1. You know, you really can't complain unless you whiff, of course, which with this deck, it's pretty hard to whiff because we play so many Revengers. Even your triggers are Revengers. Like, one of your triggers is a Revenger, so... And then its other skill is... No, there's one more skill. But the other skill is honestly pretty
just,
irrelevant.
If
It's
you have a Revenger...
continuous. If you have a grade 1 Revenger in the same column as this unit, it gains 5.
So it's just a 15k beater. We're back to D series, everyone. Yay!
We're back to Leonard, yeah.
Who gives a shit? Moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on to grade 1s, we play...
Wait. 4 copies of Rukia, which is the companion to Rakia. Play 4 copies of Branwen, the best cleric sword support. And we play 3 copies of Renard.
And of course,
copies
Claudius. So, in case you were thinking about it, we are here to confirm your suspicion. These two share 1 combined art. These two share 1 combined art. So, more likely than not, you are going to be expecting synergy, and you expected right. So,
Yes. So we're gonna first cover Claudius first. So Frontline Revenger Claudius. When at the end of your turn, if you have a grade 3 Revenger Vanguard, you may counter blast 1 and put her into the soul. You draw 1. But if you have Dorint on either your Vanguard or Vanguard Circle, I mean the Vanguard Circle doesn't work because you know you have the grade 3 Revenger, but you counter charge 1. So you know it's a 1-for-1. Just put into soul, draw 1. So you know it's pretty good, especially if you're going to be locking her and calling her from Tatu skill and then locking her with Raging Fall. You can unlock her at the end of the turn. You can still +1. So even though Raging Fall discards 3 and only drive checks 2, you still basically go net zero thanks to her, because you call her for free and then you put her into soul, you draw one, so you effectively you +3 after you -3. So it's really good, and I still think that it's worth to play her, even if you may want to cut Doran in the future, because CB want to draw one and +1 to soul, seeing as how much soul we use in this deck, as we'll cover later on, it is honestly really good just as a standalone. You don't need Doran, but Doran is nice for the less counterblast to use. Because the more counterblast you have, the more raging form calls you can make.
Next up, we have 4 copies of Brandon. Brandon is our generic grade 3 searcher. Her skill is that if you have Ritual 3 or 3 or more grade 1s in the drop, she gains 5,000 power.
Yeah.
Beyond that, just a traditional grade 3 searcher, just a good card to have, especially since you are quite reliant on seeing your grade 3 Revenger Ragings, so definitely play this at a 4th. Our next card is a card from our older Revenger deck, which is Rennet. Rennet has 2 skills. When his attack hits or the attack he boosts hits, if the
No, you can just look at the top.
Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, add a Revenger from among them to your hand. It's a free plus with an on hit, so
but he has to hit the Vanguard.
He has to hit the Vanguard. He has to hit the Vanguard, but it's still pretty good, on hit. So yeah. Second skill is a skill you don't really use that often now, but you used to.
No, I mean, it comes up every now and then.
Once in a while. When this unit is retired for the cost of your
Vanguard,
you can soul last one. Choose one of
your opponent chooses.
Your opponent chooses one of their rear guards.
So it does bypass resist, as Shadow Paladin is well known for at this point. Your opponent forcing your opponent to retire one of their own rear guards. So
really, you don't use Renette for the 1-for-1 trading, but Renette is really used more for the actual searching. The 1-for-1 trading is good in the niche scenarios that you just need to destroy something, but more rather than not, you just really don't. So it's just really good for the searching. Early game wise, it's devastating for the Revengers drawing and the on hit pressures. Late game wise, he's just another Revenger to join the pool that will be locked by our Raging Fall.
Yeah. And now we move on to Rukia. So Rukia has 2 skills. First skill is in the soul once per turn. When your grade 3 Revenger rides on top of a grade 2, so the grade 2 doesn't have to be a Revenger, it can just be any unit, but it has
preferably this guy.
But your grade 3 must be a Revenger. You can search your deck for any grade 1 Revenger and call it to a rearguard circle as rest.
So any one of the Revengers you just saw, including this guy, count as a candidate for Rukia search, which is really good.
Yes, but then the rearguard circle skill, honestly, the reason why that he's definitely a must play, which is Soul Plus 2 on rearguard circle. Once per turn, you can search a grade 2 or grade 2 or lower Revenger from your drop zone and Superior Call it. So you probably in the same column. Just so you probably can see where we are going with this line of thinking. So let's say that you write Rakia, and then you write Raging Fall on top of Rakia. Rukia from the soul will search you out another Rukia. So you'll search you out another one, call it as rest. And then after that, from his skill, you Soul Blast 2. So you make sure you Soul Blast out the Rukia that you just wrote last turn, and you call it to the same column. So for Soul Blast 2, you have effectively just +2 from this thing. And then,
all you did was right.
So, you can already see just the strength of this new support wave into helping Raging Fall actually profit very heavily of his inherently very mediocre skill.
But the even better part is these are all generic to the Revengers, which means you could even throw this into your moderate deck if you really
so
wanted
the combo that you can do is that, the grade 2 searcher for Blaster Duck and moderate Masquerade.
Masquerade, yeah.
So Masquerade will kill himself if you actually get the search off, but if you use Rukia, you can Soul Blast 2 and then get the Masquerade back immediately, and you can do the search again, or you can also just use him as a 13k beater. So it's very, very strong just as a generic for your Revenger. So as long as you play a Revenger Vanguard, Rukia will always be a very good option for you, just as a generic +1 for any grade 2 Revenger that you might kill off due to one of your skills, or you just kill off because he kills himself.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but then one thing that you might have noticed at this point is that we have actually thrown out a very important piece of our deck from the last set, which was the Phantom Blaster Dragon Ride Chain, or the Shadow Spine as we would like to refer it to. So, the main PBD, Blaster Duck, Bendy, and Damhood are all gone from this deck, because honestly, as you can see, Raging Fall Dragon actually can be a superior early game pressure compared to just getting a free force marker on turn 2.
In addition, you just have brilliant Revenger ride targets. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't need to have a consistent, faster ride if you now just have a better ride altogether. And you don't have to worry about speeding up the game because Raging Fall, as we have clearly demonstrated, is pretty good at practically any stage of the game. There is always something you can do with Fall. Unlike Form, which is a bit more conservative, that in certain stages he excels, but if you ride him as a turn 3 ride, he's almost pretty dead and doesn't do much. Fall really just patches up that aggro section and just goes in. So really, I don't think it's much of a problem. I think it's still fine.
Yeah.
Our grade zero lineup, we play a starter.
So we play Promising Knight Davy because we want weakness is a crime. So playing PBD is a crime. So we don't have to play.
We play this one because we actually won the early game CB, but the late game defense.
Yeah. So Heal Guardians, I mean, since you're no longer playing PBD, you can actually play Heal Guards. But in our opinion, I think normal heal triggers are very worth it to play in the late game because this deck is definitely going to be going into the late game in order to try and tie out the game in the end.
And then of course we play 6 crits. We play 4 the Revenger crits for obvious names.
Yes.
So that actually just wraps it up. That's the entire deck of Raging Fall Dragon. Our verdict, I think, is pretty clear at this point in time. The deck is honestly not that bad.
I mean, it definitely goes more into like the meme as the less competitive and more just fun aspect of Shadow Paladin. Just rewriting over and over again, extending your Vanguard, destroying your entire, locking your whole board, minusing a lot. But it's more for the fun aspect rather than for like the super highly competitive aspect that Shadows is known for.
Really isn't that competitive, but it certainly is nowhere near Ragey level. It's definitely viable, definitely playable, semi-competitive. I say this is 100% pick because it's so fun to play.
Yeah, honestly.
So really, I don't see a problem with it. I get it that a lot of people are expecting this to be good and it's just not your expectation, which is honestly fine. But if Overdress has taught me anything, if you don't expect anything,
you won't be disappointed.
But if you expect something,
you'll always be disappointed.
It's great art.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for watching. Yeah. In our next video, we're going to be covering another V call deck. So write it down in the comment section below if there's anything you want to see. We have a few more reverse decks up, and I wonder what is that?